Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here. In today's video, I'll be talking about day 9 of the Washington Commanders training camp. Trey Amos just absolutely dominated, had multiple interceptions, and is looking like a future star cornerback in this league. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell as well so you never miss a video. It's free. Just subscribe. Trying to hit 16K before the start of the season. So, it is game week. Obviously, we're not playing a, regular season game, but it's preseason, so it is something. And it was week or day 9 today, maybe day 10. At this point, it really doesn't matter. But they got joint practice on Wednesday against the Patriots. So I believe tomorrow they'll be going over to Foxborough. I don't know exactly, but we got some injury updates. We'll get into that in a bit. But let's get into some of the big plays today. So Trey Amos picked off Jaden Daniels and also deflected a pass intended for Luke McCaffrey. The fans were responded by chanting, "We want Terry, we want Terry." He also had another pick on a pass that was for Chris Moore, I believe. Maybe this is the one she's talking about, Nika Jabala, but I don't know. But he did have 2 interceptions today, and he is looking like the real deal. And he's looking like he's going to start for sure. And you got him, you got Mikey Sainristil, and you got Marshawn Lattimore, and that looks like a really, really good trio at the cornerback position. So he was in tight coverage against Chris Moore. Jaden Daniels threw a ball slightly behind him, and Amos stole the ball from Moore off his back shoulder for a pick. And so it looks like, from what I saw, the pass wasn't awful. Someone even said it was a good pass, but, Trey Amos just made a, better play than Chris Moore did or Jaden Daniels did. So, for the most part, though, I heard Jaden had a really, really good day. It was just, or at least leading up to this, and then a couple not so good plays at the end. One of them maybe was his fault. The other one maybe was the receiver's fault. But Trey Amos, if he can be really good for us this year or good, that helps out a lot because you go from Emmanuel Forbes, Benjamin St-Juste, and Michael Davis to a guy like Trey Amos, and then also Marshawn Lattimore, healthy Marshawn Lattimore, hopefully, Jonathan Jones, you got second-year Mikey Sanders still, Noah Igbenogany too, who is underrated. He is underrated in my opinion. So you got those guys. Injury update. So Marcus Mariota was not there today. That has been interesting. I don't know what is up there. He's been out a bunch of these days. I think he came back I guess today's Monday, so he came back on Saturday, but he's been missing a lot of days. Mike Sanders still wasn't there. Not sure what that's about. Brandon Coleman obviously had that injury a few days ago and exited practice on Saturday, I guess, so 2 days ago, and was limping, so probably a leg injury. Nothing too serious, hopefully, but missed the practice today. We'll see if he goes to Foxborough with the team, but I would assume he's out for this game. Noah Brown out. I don't know why. Jordan McGee and Javonte Jean-Baptiste, again, don't know why with those guys as well, but 4 second-year players, and those are the guys we want to see the most. So this sucks because, again, the preseason, I think guys, especially, Jordan McGee, you want to see what he can do. Luke McCaffrey, Benson, and Johnny Newton, those are the guys I think that need to prove the most. But you would like to see Brandon Coleman get some more reps at guard, and same thing with Javonte Jean-Baptiste and Jordan McGee at their respective positions. So a little bit disappointing there, and we'll see about some of them. I would suspect some of them will be able to play and might be able to do the joint practice against the Patriots, but then some of them for sure won't. Like Brandon Coleman, I would be surprised if he's going to be able to practice on Wednesday. Maybe play in the preseason game, that's a different story, but I would probably assume they're a little bit cautious. And then Noah Brown, maybe they're just resting him a little bit because of the whole, injury he had. Let's see, Deebo had a nice play. He was back. That's another injury update with the finger, had a finger injury. And we kind of debunked the injury right away, that it wasn't anything serious right after practice. I made that video if you guys want to check that out. But second play of 11v11, caught a deep ball from Jaden with a defender glued to him. So Jaden and Deebo continue to have a really good connection, and Deebo is going to have a good year this year. If he's healthy, he's going to have a big year. I could see 1,000+ receiving yards, or like at least like 900. I think, he's going to have a good year. And, obviously Terry being out sucks, but the one good thing is that Terry, I keep saying Terry, is that Deebo and Jaden are getting, much better connection because of this. And, whereas if Terry was here, the targets would be a little bit more split. But Deebo is, getting a lot more targets than he normally would. So let's talk about what Zack Selby had to say. Chris Moore had a nice catch against Lattimore. He's having a good camp. Chris Moore is. Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt had a really nice run again. A lot of the media was talking about that. One cut, and he made it to the second level. And same guys returning punts as usual. Jalen Lane, KJ Osborne, Demetric Felton, and Casimir Allen. And then B-Rob was back there, which that would be, I think that's the worst possible punt return you could have out there. I mean, the guy he doesn't have a lot of speed, and he can't really make guys miss. I mean, he can maybe break one tackle, but and he's a little injury prone, so having Brian Robinson at punt returner is not the move. So I don't know what they're doing there. It could have been, just trying out a specific play maybe on return. I don't know. Another really good catch from Deebo. Jonathan Jones was on him, but Daniels put it exactly where it needed to be. And then Cliff talked after practice, talked about Luke, talked about Bill, talked about Deebo, talked about Jalen Lane as well. Let's go to some of the other reporters, see if Lionel has anything to say from today. The depth chart will come out today, so we'll talk about that for sure. So he didn't have anything to say. Let's go to JP Finley. I know some of these reporters did post some things, but Cliff says night and day difference from this time last year with Luke McCaffrey. That's good to hear. He talked about Connerly. You can see what he had to say there with that quote. And let's go over Jaden Daniels signed a baby apparently, and a couple other players did as well. There's Deebo Samuel making a catch in warm-ups, and then JP talked about Ja'Cory, aka Bill, making another big play. So hey, he's a sleeper. He's getting too much love, which for me, because I like to have these guys under the radar. Maybe you can steal, get them in a late round steal in a fantasy draft or whatever, and then also just have people surprised in general. But hey, if he's going to be a star, it doesn't really matter. I don't know if he will be, but it's looking really good. It was looking really good for a 7th round pick, and he could be the starter. He could be the starter for sure. Let's see if anything that Keim said, talked about Brandon Coleman, and then let's go over some things here. He talked about Trey Amos, and one thing I like that he said, that Joe Witt said, is Trey has a good day every day. So high praise there from the defensive coordinator. So there was one pick that we talked about with the Chris Moore one. I think that's the one that Nikki was alluding to, and maybe Grant Paulson. But this one was a interception against Luke McCaffrey. So big play there by Trey Amos, another one. And, Luke McCaffrey apparently had an okay day, but Trey Amos, again, star of the show today. And that's what you want to hear from your 2nd round pick. Josh Connerly, up and down so far. That's understandable. Offensive line, pads off and on, and, he's switching positions. So it is a big change, even if it's, you're still playing tackle. You're switching to the right side. That is a big change. And, you got to change your footwork a little bit, some technique stuff. So, and it's just a feel thing too. You played one position your whole life, and you switch to the other side. It feels different, whether it's tackle or in different sports as well. You can definitely understand why it might take a little bit longer for Josh Connerly. But I think we're gonna wrap it up there. Nothing much in terms of big plays. We talked about all the bigger ones. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoy it, and peace.